The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Tēnā koe te mana whakawā, huri no i tō tātou whare, tēnā tātou e tīmata tēnei tau hau, ngā mihi nui kia tātou katoa. Mr. Speaker, our country's in pretty good shape. It's a country that we can be proud of. It is a society that is inclusive, and it is an economy that is strong and growing. And it is being led by a Prime Minister with a government that respects, understands and supports New Zealanders in all facets of life. It is a government that has an agenda that is comprehensive, both in terms of its social agenda as well as its economic agenda, which sees that the role of government is to provide opportunities for all New Zealanders of whatever age, stripe or regional location to take advantage of a better life and pathways forward for themselves. And it's a government that, taking that agenda, understands what practically has to occur. And that includes, for instance, as my colleague Stephen Joyce spoke so persuasively earlier in the chamber, signing up to trade agreements, recognising that we are a small country a long way away from our markets and that we trade to do well, to provide the quality of life that we want for ourselves. And so joining this trade partnership is something that I stand squarely behind. And like him, I have been thinking over the weekend, what is it that is being protested against, and most particularly by Māori who came out on the streets to demonstrate their opposition. And I absolutely support their right, everyone's right in an open democracy, to be opposed or to take a point of view and to express that point of view. But here's the thing, if we want to enjoy a quality of life, whatever that is, Māori, Pākehā, Asian New Zealanders, whether we came to this country last week, last century, whenever, however we came here, we want the best possible opportunities for them. And that means having the skills and qualifications to be able to participate, having the kinds of homes and families that support that participation, seeing the opportunity of jobs and building businesses so that free to make choices for themselves. This government on this side of the House doesn't proclaim to ourselves the right to make those decisions for New Zealanders, but rather to create an environment in which New Zealanders can exercise those rights and choices. And for me as Minister of Education, I see my job as a very simple one, not an easy one, but a very simple one, which is to ensure that we get the participation at early childhood, which sets up our youngest learners to participate and be successful in their compulsory education, which allows them to then go on to choices, tertiary choices, whether that's to university, whether that's to polytech, whether that's to participate in some kind of a workplace internship, whether that's to go to employment. And so I've been surprised to sit here and listen to the nonsense that the member who spoke before me spouted about what it is we're doing in the education system in New Zealand. For a start, we have the highest participation in early childhood education we have ever had. And what's more, we've been a government prepared to put ourselves publicly on the line and say that 98% of all new entrants should have participated in early childhood before they go to school. And where are we now? We're at 96.1%. That means that we've got to get at least another 2,500 under fives into early childhood education. Where are Māori at? They're at 94%, the highest ever early childhood participation. And has the government shirked on that responsibility or cut costs there? Listening to the opposition, you'd think so. But, Mr. Speaker, in fact, early childhood education now accounts for $1.6 billion of vote education, which is a 75% increase in the 7 years we've been in government. Now, that is significant. It's not a cut, but if you listen to the opposition, you would think that, which shows that how important it is to have national standards so that everyone can learn to count, add and subtract, and to know the difference between an increase and a decrease. And schooling, we now have more kids being successful. Look, we don't want them to arrive at year 12 after they've had 12 years of education to discover that these young people don't have the skills to participate in a 21st century economy. We've invested significantly to ensure that all young New Zealanders get our minimum qualification of the NCEA 2. And what's the record there? Well, At the end of 2014, the 2015 results are not yet available. We're at just over 81%, heading towards our target of 85%. That means that 6,500 more young New Zealanders have our minimum qualification than when we came into government, and a good number of those are Māori and Pacifica. When we came into government, Māori, the government, according to the previous member, so caring about education, was prepared to preside over a system that saw Māori languish at 43% and Pacifica at 51%. What does that mean in real terms? In real terms, it means that 13,000 Māori, 16 to 18-year-olds, have the opportunity to sit and pass NCEA. When we came into government, 6,000 were achieving NCEA, less than half. In 2014, at the end of 2014, we're now up at just over 9,000. That's 3,000 more, that's a 50% lift, and it's because this system, with its teachers and principals, have focused on everyone succeeding. The only thing that's changed is expectation, an expectation that this government has been emphatic and relentless about. The schools haven't changed. The teachers and principals, by and large, haven't changed. The curriculum hasn't changed. The Education Review Office's review hasn't changed substantially. What's changed is this government's relentless expectation that every young person will get the best education possible and will leave with skills and qualifications that allow them to participate. And there isn't one pathway. There are several. It's this government that introduced the possibility of alternative pathways, of vocational pathways, of building skills. This government introduced trades and services academies that recognise that not all young people going to university. Those that want to go to university, we do support them, and I speak absolutely in favour of student loans. I come from a family of 10. I come from a family that, with student loans, had they been around, we would have seen more participate in tertiary education. And what our student loans program offers is the possibility for everyone. And what the compulsory schooling system offers is the possibility that almost every young person will have the qualification to make the choice of which pathway they go on. And the government hasn't done this, our government hasn't done this in isolation. We have also invested in a social program of extending paid parental leave, of extending visits to GPs to 13-year-olds, of helping those families living in most hardship by increasing the benefit from the 1st of April. We have decreased ACC levies. We have done a whole range of things, including providing at no cost, not free, but at no cost, to schools, any school that wishes to take them up, breakfasts. So this government has done made very practical investments in all of the policy intentions that we have placed before New Zealanders, and we are seeing them work. We are seeing more young Kiwi families get into their first homes through the Home Start program. We are seeing more young New Zealanders being immunised through a comprehensive approach to health. These are not in isolation from our investment in economic development. I had the pleasure of being in Northland last week at the launch of the Action Plan for Northland, a place that is a cornucopia of opportunity with the right levels of investments. And my colleagues, Ministers Joyce, Ministers Guy and Ministers Flavel, have invested considerable time in identifying what specifically needs to be invested in order to realise that potential, in order to grow that regional economy, in order to provide more jobs for young people. And only one example that I can give of many was attending the Northland College launch of the Mānuka plantation, and the opportunity for the kids at that college, as well as long-term unemployed, to have the opportunity not only to plant Mānuka, but to see the science of Mānuka, why it is that that flower produces natural antibacterial properties that in turn infuse our Mānuka honey, which in turn gets harvested and sold overseas at a far higher level than would be the case here, in order that it can come back and help invest into the roads and the bridges and the plant that's necessary to grow the economy. The kids at Northland College recognise and more understand how getting a great education translates into the possibility of jobs and why it is we want markets that the TPP, along with China and Korea, will open up for them. They see themselves as participants now under this government, not as victims or as casualties, but under this government, that their potential...
The member's time has expired. Materia Tura.